All right, guys, let's talk about a couple of watches that are not even arguably, these are like factual, the best luxury divers in the, say, $4,500 range. Now, there is a price difference, right? The Tudor is $4,575 US. The Seamaster is $5,200 on Bracelet. But you're really usually not going to get some sort of discount on the Tudor, so expect to pay $4,500. And you might get a discount on the Omega Seamaster in certain colors. Maybe not the white, but for the black or the blue or the chrome dial one, you might be able to pick one up for close to $4,500, $4,600, right? Close to this. So I think it's fair to compare these two. So let's get into it. They're both basically 42 millimeter watches. The Tudor, it dances around the 42, but essentially it's a 42. The Seamaster is actually a touch over 42 millimeter. And then lug to lug, you are looking at, essentially they're both 50 millimeter. But again, the Tudor is actually a touch under, and the Seamaster is definitely a 50 lug to lug. Now the thickness, you may or may not be able to see this, but the Tudor is 14.3 millimeter thick. The Seamaster, that's, the Tudor has a flat sapphire crystal. Now the Seamaster, including the double dome sapphire crystal, is about 13.75 millimeter thick. So a little bit thinner, but you don't really notice it on wrist. Certainly when you compare these two, because the Tudor being titanium and weighing less, I forget the weights. I'll try to put them down below. But I want to say this one was like 144 and this one's like 179 or something like that for grams. So being that this one weighs a little bit less versus the Seamaster, it can be a little bit thicker and it just kind of balances out weight versus thickness. The lug widths are going to be different. 22 on the Tudor, 20 on the Seamaster. Bracelet, both of them phenomenal bracelets, but anytime you have a nice, well-done bracelet that tapers and articulates all individual links, in this case, this one the Tudor can fold up on itself. This goes from 22 to 18. The Seamaster is a 20 non-tapering. It just stays 20 all the way. The Tudor Pelagos has a 7 millimeter crown. The Seamaster has about 6.4 millimeter, I believe. 500 meter depth rating on the Tudor. Still has the helium escape valve on the side, but it's not really a wart like it is on the Seamaster, although it's an iconic wart. Some people call it a wart. I personally like it. I like it on the, especially this new model. But 300 meter depth rating on the Seamaster. So even if you go full retail at $5,200 for this and $4,575, you have a price difference of $625. So if we're just going to be realistic and talk actual facts and just go by the actual retail price, forgetting about potential discounts you may get, you have a $625 price difference here. So I think even at full retail, they're 100% direct competitors with one another. They both have phenomenal movements. The Tudor having the MT5612, it's in-house 70-hour power reserve, beats at 4 hertz or 28,800 vibrations per hour, 26 joules, and it's a little bit thicker of a movement. It's about 6.5 millimeter thick on the movement. Whereas the Seamaster movement, the 8800, which you can actually see, and it's decorated, which is also a very cool factor. And we'll talk more about the cool factor on a couple things here in a minute, but so the 8800 has 35 joules versus the 26 on the Tudor, if that matters to you, and a 55-hour power reserve instead of a 70 like that. So again, tit for tat here. And this one only beats at 25,200 vibrations per hour. So it's not a full 4 hertz sweep. And then the movement in this is 5.5 millimeters, so a whole millimeter thinner, but yet the watches are not. Again, I talked about this in the Tudor Pelagos ETA version versus the MT5612. Tudor actually did a champ move and made this one as thin as they could, considering the movement they put in it. And it's, you know, evident here again when you put it up next to the Seamaster, which has a whole millimeter thinner movement, and they're like really close to thickness. So, all right. So for me, okay, my personal thoughts on these. Both amazing watches. They could coexist. They could both live in a single collection if you can afford it, right? So I own the Seamaster. I could buy the Tudor, but I'm not going to right now anyway. And I'll tell you why. As much as I love it, and I really do love it, and I could see owning it, I like the Seamaster more because of, it's just more sexy. It has the lyre lugs, which gives that curves that, you know, most guys really like curves. And as a watch enthusiast, you also have, titanium's great. You guys know I love titanium, but sometimes you really want that heft or that little extra weight in a watch, and the Seamaster delivers. It also delivers in the sense that you have a display case back here showing off the craftsmanship or the ability that Omega has to produce amazing movements, and they show it off. So now Tudor has done display casebacks. They did it in the North Flag. They're doing it with some of their new releases. So they can do it and they can show it off. And I'm sure they're capable of making decorated movements, but they don't. And maybe they will in the future and show it off. So, and hopefully they do that. But the finishing and the curves and the, well, history. I mean, yes, Tudor as a brand has history, but Omega Seamaster has history regarding a fictional character by the name of James Bond, which a lot of us enjoy. I do. I'm not a James Bond like super fan or anything like that, but you know, I like the fictional character James Bond. I know I'm probably breaking a lot of hearts right now. People are like, wait, James Bond isn't real? So let's pop both these on wrist real quick, and then I will show the Lume, because the Lume, if you're a Lume junkie, you're going to pick the Tudor over the Omega, guaranteed. And I will show that because it certainly performs in the Lume department. This thing is amazing. I really do want to own one, but guys, I have to consolidate. I can't just own every single watch that I want. And you guys are the same way. Most people that are into watches cannot afford to buy every single watch they want. So you have to be slightly selective. All right, let's kill these lights and check out the Lume, because the Tudor is a beast, absolute beast. And, you know, part of it's because they loomed out the bezel. Omega could have done that. I don't know why they haven't. And maybe they will in another release. You know, hopefully they do. I don't think it's not necessary, but is any of this necessary? We like it. None of us are using it as diving. Honestly, I suspect, and maybe if there's any divers that can comment on this, I suspect that a fully loomed bezel on a true diver watch is actually probably distracting. They really maybe only want that pip so they can easily identify where that is versus having the whole thing loomed up. Am I wrong in thinking that? Is there any divers that can chime in on that thought process? Anyway, guys, which one would you pick, or which one have you picked? And I'll see you in the next vid. Thanks for watching. Oh, Craig loaned in the Pelagos, and obviously I own the Seamaster, which I did pick up from Nick at Exquisite Timepieces. So name dropping. I'll see you in the next vid.